Welcome back to Noob Heroes. The game is over, I've won, but I thought I'll do a little bit of a performance evaluation video for myself. So, let's start with strategy. The Pretender build for Winnie the Pooh was alright. I liked the charged bodies on the ghosts. The extra hit points, I still think it was a good choice, although I didn't get too much use out of it. Poison resistance could have been nice with Fall Vapors, but I ended up not using it. But still, I'm pretty okay with this build. I would have done something different in hindsight, probably something with high Astral, so breaking into Astral would have been a lot easier if I had taken Astral 5 on my Pretender. But hindsight's 2020. By no means is this a bad build. Now, the ghosts did their job. They tied up opponents. They killed things. I think mostly with the charged bodies, and I think they did fine. Let's see. The choice to attack Lanka, which was my first war, was very difficult. And at the time I thought I might be throwing the game by doing it. But as you can see here in the graphs, Lanka, he attacked Calum first and then I attacked him. I think if I had left him alone, and in hindsight we now know that everybody else was leaving him alone, he might have run away with the game and his score graph would have gone straight up. And everybody would have been too late, he would have had proper research, proper blood economy, and we would have been all dead. So I still think it was the right choice to do. Picking a fight with Soramasha wasn't really a choice, since he put Burden of Time up and went AI, so kinda had to do that. Then attacking Atlantis was another bit of a weird one. Like, why would I attack the one player who isn't committed to anything and is way behind on research? As you can see here, Atlantis, his research graph is really nothing. Why did I attack him and not attack Hinnom right away? Well, at the time I didn't know that this throne over here was in Lanka's possession. I thought Atlantis had it. So I thought I could go fight Atlantis and win the game without fighting anybody else. And by the time I found out, the war was already going. Now, I could have scouted there, but I didn't. Then, also, if I was gonna fight Hinnom and win, Atlantis might play spoiler and attack me, so it was also better to get them out of the game first. And on top of that, Hinnom and Lanka kind of fought each other to a stalemate at this point. And I could just go and kill Atlantis while still flying under the radar. And then go for the win with 4 capitals instead of with 2 capitals. And Hinnom later told me that he really didn't see it coming. He thought my war with Atlantis would be a long war. Hinnom violating the NAP in the end, which wasn't my choice again, so hard to evaluate the strategic, my strategic performance on that. But that worked out really well, because otherwise I would have ended up trying to claim the final throne while Cataclysm was already going, and I've never been in a Cataclysm, but what I hear from people, it's not fun. I might have still won the game if Hinnom hadn't broken the NAP and we would have fought in Cataclysm, because As we can see at the end, I had far the most forts, twice the income. This is when the fighting started, so I probably had the income of Lanka and Hinnom combined. Really good gem income, really good research, basically everything was researched. My Dominion score was fine, my army size was, again, both of them combined. And, well, ascension points doesn't matter, but yeah, once the throne rush started, it goes up very steeply, so I fly under the radar until I make my bid for the game. So if Hinnom had it violated, I would have probably just ended my nap, waited 3 turns, and attacked then, which would have been inside of Cataclysm, which would have been a different ending to the game. So overall for strategy, I think I did well, although I could have done a few things a lot better. Now let's have a look at operations. The one thing that I could have done much better in my operational performance was forging. I did forge plenty of stuff, but the trick with forging is that you actually want to know what you're going to need 2 turns in advance, because 1 turn to forge, then on the next turn you equip it on your guy and move him out, and then the turn after is when the item is actually in action. And I still find it really hard to look 2 turns ahead, like, oh, 2 turns from now I'm gonna need a tug with this gear, or 2 turns ago in the future I'm gonna be wanting to cast this spell, so I'm gonna need this mage with this equipment. Maybe it just comes with experience, but right now it's still too hard to do for me. And I either end up in situations where I wish I forged this and this item 2 turns ago, or I just forge a whole pile of stuff that I might not need just to have it in case I do. Expansion, if we look here, I am in the middle of the pack of the people who didn't mess up their expansion, I could say. Like Atlantis and Fomoria had a little bit of trouble expanding. Everybody else did expand like standard decent expansion, and I am right in the middle of that pack. The war with Lanka I meticulously planned for it being on such a short notice, so I used every resource I had, planned turns ahead, like I'm gonna need this item for this guy, this item for this guy, put a bottle of water on the assassin, all that stuff. I don't think even now, with all the experience, I could have done the planning of the Lankan War better. Except, of course, the stupidity of not putting Girdles of Might on my chariot tugs. My operations in Sauromatia, I think they start around here, in the middle. Yeah. Those were a mess. I should have done much better against Sauromatia. I spammed out way too many ghosts with dead gems that I didn't need. I lost a few battles against the AI. It went back and forth a little bit. Like if you look further where their downfall is going, there are little bumps in there where they take stuff back. Yeah, I just really underestimated the AI and messed up that operation. That whole thing could have been maybe 5 turns shorter if I did a good job. The operation against Atlantis was well planned and well executed. I made a few missteps. We went a little bit back and forth with items, but as you can see, Atlantis is his provinces, his forts, his income, his gem income. It's all a straight decline, so that operation was well planned, executed well. I brought the right tools for the job, namely Vine Ogres, Ghost Summoners, and Water Elemental Summoners. And yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Oh, and Wraith Lords. So that went well. Maybe I could have shaved off 1 or 2 turns, but that went pretty much as well as it could. Not really fair, because Atlantis is low research. But yeah, it was a well-planned operation that worked out as I wanted it to. Then there is the Taking of the Lost Throne, which was a very straightforward plan, and it just worked. I had a plan, I had a backup plan, and I had plans to survive if both plans failed. But plan A just worked, so that was a straightforward operation, but I pulled together my assets and pulled it off. A big failing overall is the gear. I messed up the chariot gear for 60 turns, and I didn't bring out those items. Let's see, what's the item called again? It's a mod item from Lucid's Thematic Gem Gen, but that mod is pretty ubiquitous at this point. I need to find a Water Death Mage, I think. You'll do. This thing, the Ghost Orb, which takes 10 gems, 8 with a hammer, and only 4 dead gems, and gives you 2 temporary dead gems. So, in 2 battles you earned back your dead gems, in 4 battles you earned back your gems total. So, I should have been making these as soon as I hit Construction 4, I think this is, yeah, it's Construction 4 item. And just be using those instead. Especially when I hit Conjuration 7, I should have been cranking these out. But I didn't. I just took dead gems into battle for most of the game, and that was not a good job. But other than those 2 failings, operationally, I think, well, I mean, it worked out in the end, but I think my operational performance may have been the worst part, actually. Then there's tactics. I think my army formations were on point, especially during the battles of Acasta. Over here, poor Acasta, only 10,000 people left. I managed to beat back Lanka twice, even though despite their horrible Hellblasts, I managed to hold this place. And the underwater combination, or now above water combination, of a line of Vine Ogres, backed up by a lot of Ghost Summoners, Water Elementals. This also was a very good tactic, so that worked out. My mage scripting was generally good. I messed up a few times burning out my communion, and I also once was dumb enough to cast Phoenix Spire with a mage and blowing up my own whole mage core in a battle. But generally, my mage scripting was good. My Turk scripting and equipment was kind of bad. As I mentioned twice before now, I was so dumb and I didn't put a Girdle of Might on my Chariot Tugs. I really should have, but you know, I'm a new player, it's a noob game, it happens. Also, I managed to jump a Tug into the water here, which was a very successful transport mage. And he died miserably because I gave him the wrong equipment and the wrong script, and he had no business being there in the first place. So that was dumb, but And I should have done more offline testing to test my tactics out instead of just going for it. So I was a bit complacent as well. Regardless, most of the time my tactics were solid. Alright, so yeah, looking at the score graphs once again. For provinces, I was behind Hinnom most of the game, actually behind Lanka as well. And for a little bit here, even behind Atlantis. So this was like, I didn't conquer a lot of land for most of the game. But it was kind of on purpose as well. I didn't want to look like the #1 player to everybody else. I'd rather be the #2 or #3 so that everybody else would focus the bigger threats and I could keep building up my research and keep building up my stuff. For forts, well, I had a lot of money, so any place that I wanted a fort would have a fort. And here in the latter part of the game, you see me just conquering fort after fort after fort and still building them. For income, even though Hinnom was much bigger, I managed to do really well in income. This is because of my skills. I was actually the #1 for income all of the games save a turn here. And maybe Atlantis was tied with me very much at the start. So yeah, I had the most gold. And gold is actually really important in Dominions, so the scales build worked out well there. For gem income, I was the #2 for quite a bit. I side searched a lot, but Hinnom just had a lot of land. Then at some point I started putting globals and I am in the lead for gems. Research is just, well, almost exponential curve here. Hinnom is the only contender. Lanka wasn't, thanks to our war. Let's see, Sarmatia did okay-ish, but he had some things going on in his personal life, and I think he just stopped caring at some point. Zobalba did not so well for research. Atlantis did bad. Terrados didn't do well, but they were in a knife fight all the time. So yeah, research, I was clearly the leader, and because I didn't try to sell anybody legless lanterns, that came as quite a surprise to everyone that I had such a research economy going. Dominion, I flew under the radar all game until I put Dark Skies up and started pushing it. Army size, I was in the lead, but I have 10 gold humans and lots of them, and not much else, so very possible that Hinnom and Lanka actually had more powerful armies than me for most of the game. Until in the end I just started summoning and pushing out a boatload of troops out of every possible fort because I had so much income. I could afford it. And then for ascension points, I claimed the Throne of Gaia here, so most of the game I'm actually at 0 ascension points. Then I claimed the Throne of Gaia because it spreads out my skill a bit. And it gives me 2 nature gems, and claiming 1 throne doesn't put a target on your backyard, so. Yeah, and then in the last maybe 10% of the game or less, I claim enough thrones for victory, so. Yeah, as you can see in all these graphs, except income, which isn't visible to other players, I managed to look non-threatening for most of the game and then go for the win all the way at the end. So yeah, that part, and that's also a part of strategy. I did a good job then, I suppose. So yeah, I'm content with my performance. I still need more practice. I need to work harder on my strategy at the start of the game because I really should have taken Astral 5. I need to do more testing for battles. I just need more experience to get gear at the right time because planning item forging is hard. Alright, that's it for this video and for this series. I hope for anybody still watching that you've enjoyed it, because why else would you watch 24 videos? There will be more content on the channel. I am working on a series of Middle-Age Mictlan, and I'm still playing, so if any of my other games will be interesting, I will be making series on those too. Bye.